All righty. Come on. Lord is good. He is moving. Amen. Come on. Who is grateful to be here today? Let's go. I want to just go ahead and dive in. I just feel like the Lord has something special on his word for today. If you want to open up your Bibles, go ahead and open up your Bibles to Joshua chapter 4. This is the 6th book in the Bible. It is towards the beginning. You'll see Joshua, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Joshua comes up right after that. Joshua chapter 4. And you can just put your finger in the Bible right there. What I want to do is dive right into the word, to what God's saying, what I believe is something that he's got, not only that is edifying and is good, but I believe God's got something for the individual hearts in this room. I believe that he's got something that's always good, and he's got something that's good for right now. And I'm believing, I'm expecting. So we're going to go ahead. Let's open up Joshua chapter 4. What's happening here? So basically, if y'all know the story, like the old movie, The 10 Commandments, right? And you have God started this nation, and it started with his family. He has one kid, his kid has one kid, and then he has 12 kids. And then it builds into this massive nation, and they escape out of Egypt and all this slavery and all the 10 plagues. And then they step out, and God says, I got this promised land for you. It's going to be incredible. You are ready to go get it. Let's go. And they step out. They get this covenant with the Lord at Mount Sinai. The whole mountain is in flames and thunder and earthquakes and lightning, and it's insane. And they're seeing the Lord's presence up on the top of this mountain. And they go and they decide to build an altar. They decide to build an idol to a god that they were worshiping back in Egypt. And then they go through the wilderness and they go to this promised land, and they say, that looks a little bit too scary. There's other people over there, and they're bigger, stronger than us. I don't think we should go take it. And God says, all right, I'm going to give you 40 years, and we're going to get a new generation to come around. Every single person that said no, you are going to pass away. A new generation is going to come up underneath you, and they are going to have the faith to say yes to the promised land. And so what happens is, finally, 40 years after just wandering in this wilderness, that it should take like 11 days max to get to, and they finally, 40 years later, they come across, and it's the Jordan River that's that is between where they are and the promised land that God has for them. And this insane, what happens is God in Joshua chapter 3 talks about how they took the Ark of the Covenant, this golden box that had the 10 Commandments, had manna, had like all this special presence of the Lord carried in it, and it was anointed, and it was God's. And when they took that out to the Jordan River stopped. And they're walking across on dry ground. And as long as the presence of the Lord was there, it stopped. And so everybody, this sound familiar? This is just like how they got into this wilderness season. They crossed the Red Sea on dry ground. And that's exactly the same way that they're stepping out. And there's all these correlations here. We can't get all the way into it, but it's powerful. That's where we find ourselves right here. Joshua chapter 4, verse 1 through 7, if we can pull this up. Here we go. It says, when all the people had crossed the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, now choose 12 men, one from each tribe. The 12 sons of Israel had their own families, had their own tribes, one from each tribe, and take 12 stones from the very place where the priests are standing with the Ark of the Covenant on their back, in the middle of the Jordan, and carry. Now, when it says stones, this is not like, I got a little rock here. It's like, ooh, I got this big thing. It says, carry them on your shoulders. carry them. And so they got these big stones that they're carrying. And it says, carry them out and pile them up on the place where you will camp. So Joshua called together the 12 men he had chosen, one from each of the tribes of Israel. Verse 5, he says, he told them to go into the middle of the Jordan and in front of the ark of the Lord, your God. Each of you must pick up one stone, carry it out on your shoulder, 12 stones in all, one for each of the 12 tribes of Israel. We'll use these stones to build a memorial, to build an altar is what this is. And in the future, your children will ask you, what do these stones mean? They're going to walk by and they're going to see this pile of 12 massive stones. What does that mean? You can tell them they remind us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the ark of the Lord's covenant went across. These stones will stand as a memorial, as a reminder among the people of Israel forever. And to call back to what God's done. Now, with these correlations of all of how God has moved through them, and for the last 40 years, every single morning, they would wake up, and they'd be able to go out, and they'd grab this manna. No one has any clue what that was, how it became. It just came like the dew on the grass. In the morning, it was just there, and they'd be able to gather it. Except for on Fridays, they'd go and gather it. There'd be twice as much, and they'd gather twice as much. And somehow now it would last till the next day. And before any other day, any extra would be gone, and they'd go out and gather again. And that God was giving them their daily provisions, their daily bread again and again. And today I want to talk about these stones. When we talk about one more, I want to talk about how the reality is that every single one of us is building an altar. Every single one of us is building an altar, and relationship with the Lord is this is what it is. It is every single day going out and having the faithfulness and going out and gathering the manna, going out and staying faithful, going out and doing what God said he was going to do. And it's not all that glorious most of the time, but maybe once every 40 years something incredible happens, and God does like, holy smokes, what just happened? But the manna, though it was a miracle, it didn't feel like it. After the second, third, fourth morning. It just was. And the reality is we don't always realize the miracles that we're living in. We don't always realize that the faithfulness that we are just walking through day in and day out is only possible because of the faithfulness of our Lord, and that every single day has been a miracle. Every single day has been the provision of the Lord. And in our walk with the Lord, if we aren't taking one more step, if we aren't taking one more stone, if we aren't putting one more stone on top of another, if we're not learning, if we're not growing, if we're not being challenged, we're a half step, or maybe we have fully embraced being a Pharisee, someone who loves being religious, but doesn't love the Lord actually getting into our hearts. See, relationship with the Lord is all about this idea of one more stone. And these 12 stones that they would put, each one of them would carry on their shoulder, and then they took to the place where they were camping, and they'd put a stone on the ground, and one on top of the other. And every single one of these stones represented a couple different things. The stones, first of all, the stones represented the people, right? There's 12 stones. 12 tribes, one representative from each tribe. And so it's this stone is a representation of the individual people that God was using in this story. And so they got 12 because they weren't going to do the 1 million of all the people that were there. And they said, we're building an altar and we're going to do this. But every single stone represented a person, represents a tribe, a family, a group, and every single one of us, as we look at the altars that we're building, we got stones that represent the people within the journey, that maybe there's some challenges, maybe there's some things that the Lord is challenging you to, and he's saying, I've got one more for you. I've got one more challenge for you. I've got one more discipline for you. I need you to pick up this stone, and a lot of times it actually has to do with the people. So that's why we said one more friend last week. If you joined Collective at home or watched online, you saw one more friend. And that is, who is the person that you can just love on? You're not trying to evangelize and get them within the next 3 months to be able to follow the Lord wholeheartedly and be building a disciple themselves. No, I'm just going to love them. They don't know the Lord. I'm going to be intentional. I'm going to live differently enough that it makes them go, that's weird. Why do you do that? And I'm going to respond, and I'm going to live, and I'm going to love with insane, generous, radical love that is different, that is weird. So one more friend. Maybe one of the stones, one of the things that God is telling you to do is maybe one more mission field. This is like, you got a workplace. You got something, and every single one of us, what I want us to do is I want you to listen and think through these stones. Maybe there's something that you go, what is the Lord challenging me in right now? Because he's got seasons. He's got challenges. He's always calling. He's always calling us higher. If I'm not taking a step with the Lord right now, if I'm not feeling conviction in an area of my heart right now, then I am either lying to myself about how good I am, or I'm not listening to the Lord. So what is the stone that God's asking you to put up on the altar that you are building today? Maybe it's one more friend. Maybe it's one more mission field. Maybe it's one place where you go, hey, the lunch hour at my workplace is my mission field. Maybe it's my kids hang out with their classmates or with their friends every single Friday night, and their family, they're lost, and that's my mission field. And I'm going to intentionally, I'm not just going to show up and just hang out on my phone. I'm not just going to show up and talk about the March Madness tournament. But I'm actually going to show up, and I'm actually going to be intentional. I'm actually going to talk about, I'm going to ask questions. I'm actually going to love. I'm going to show generosity. I'm going to be thinking and praying for them. So this is my mission field that I have. What is that? Your workplace? Your coffee shop? Maybe it's your family, right? Maybe you got a neighborhood. Maybe you got a team you're on, whether at work, whether it is a extracurricular you got. What is your one more mission field? Every single one of us, we say here at Collective, every single one of us is a missionary. Not every single one of us is called to go overseas, but every single one of us has been called to the world that we live in and to be Jesus there. And that's what we're seeing with this one more, right? That's why we talk about one more prayer, because that's who we are called to be. Maybe it's one more moment. One more moment every single day. This is one of the challenges I feel like the Lord has given to me, where every day I want to have one moment of blessing. Every day, because the reality is, it's kind of like living with Jesus in your heart. It's a lot like if I was walking around with a checkbook, and this checkbook went to a bank account that had special rules behind it, that you can't use this bank account for you. You can give away, and it only starts with like $1,000 in it, okay? So you can give away, but anywhere you go, you can go. But every single time you write a check and you give a blessing away, the bank account doesn't go down, it actually goes up. And so I'm going to go and, can you imagine how fun that would be? To just constantly have this checkbook in your back pocket and be looking, and at Starbucks, you're like, here we go. How much is that? There you go, $7.56 for that coffee you got. Here we go. What do I got over here? And every time I give, I actually receive more, and I'm able to give more. And I'm like, oh, I got a dream. I'm going to be able to buy someone a car someday. And then I got a dream. I'm going to be able to buy someone a house someday. And then I got a dream. I'm going to buy Collective Church a building someday. Right? Like, come on. But the reality, do you know how much fun that would be? And you realize that's what we're all given. Every single one of us is given hope, light, life, joy, love that actually extends beyond us. It's not ours, it's His. And every single time we give, we are enabled to give more. And so maybe it's one more moment every single day. I'm going to take one moment to just be the light, be joy, leave a clue, have a conversation with someone, encourage them, tell them they're looking amazing, give them a hug, whatever it may be, right? It could be something big. You could be holding the door for someone. It could be something. It could be something little. It could be something big. Like maybe you have a conversation and start asking questions, and they start going, well, maybe I should give the Lord another try, right? That's a crazy one that we saw at the restaurant in Texas. So maybe one more friend, one more mission field, one more moment. Maybe it's one more group. Maybe the people that your stones are representing is one more group. And I've got a small group that I've thought about joining, but I don't know, I've been burned. I've tried those before. They haven't really worked. Maybe it's an accountability partner. Maybe it's a team of people that is like, I'm going to actually let people in a vulnerable place and things that I don't like, mess that I don't usually let people see. And I'm going to actually try it again, not because I trust them, but because I trust God and because I see that in that, God's got good things. He always works through that. Even if I sometimes feel a little bit embarrassed as I'm sharing my mess. Right? So maybe it's one more group. Maybe it's one more accountability partner, a group of people or friends that can raise us up spiritually, lift us up together. Maybe your one more is you need to reach out to someone one more time. A person that you've tried that's been on your heart, that family member, that relationship that you wish was restored, and you keep getting shot down, or the text thread from the last couple of years is you, thumbs up, you. You go, okay, I'm gonna reach out one more time. It's not on them. That's a me. I'm just going to do my part. Maybe it's, I just need to forgive them one more time. Because I had forgiven them. I did. But it's stirring back up in me. I'm finding new traumas and issues in my heart, and I know where it came from. And man, life would be a lot easier if it hadn't happened to me, if they hadn't done that. So I now have forgiven them before. I'm going to forgive them again. One more, and I'm going to reach out one more time. I'm going to forgive them one more time. Maybe I'm going to give one more invitation. I'm going to invite someone one more time because I don't know about you guys, but I may have to hand out 100 invites in order to get anybody to be remotely interested at least a little bit, right? The reality is, did you know you got to invite someone on average 7 times for them to move on it. So that's not a me problem. My job is to invite. If they don't show up, if they say, no, I'm not interested, if they say, yeah, I'll be there, and then they don't show, that's okay. That's not your job. Your job is to lay one more stone and obey one more thing, what's God saying for you to do? The results aren't you. So maybe it's about people. Maybe these stones represent people, and God's going, I got a person on your heart. I've got a ministry for you to people. The other thing that these stones represented is, if you notice, he says, take the stones while you're crossing the Jordan River, and you will grab one of the stones from the middle of the Jordan River. You'll put it up on your shoulder, and you'll walk it across. See, the thing is he's saying he does not just want a stone somewhere from around the Jordan River. He says, I want it in the middle of it. Because these stones represent people, and these stones represent process. This is the middle of where I've got you in, and I'm asking you to pick up something that may be part of the process. Have you ever heard a great coach repeat again and again and again and again, like it's all about the process, right? It's all about the process. Come on. Just be faithful. Just be faithful, because freshmen, it's all about the process. Hit the weight room, do the drills, be on the scout team. Someday you will see that will be worth it, and it's all about the process. The Lord's the same way. See, the Lord, he's a God who's going, I want you to love the process. I want you to love the journey. It's not just the destination. I don't want you to grab the stones from the end of the Jordan River and pick them up. I want you to grab them from the middle. As you're crossing, as you're in there, pick them up and carry them, because these are a testament to what God's done through the journey. That for 40 years, the crazy thing about this is that this isn't just a 40-year testament. This is potentially upwards of 685 years from the time that God said to Abraham, he says, I'm going to make you into a great nation. And that land of Canaan over there, that's going to be yours. It's your promised land. You will have it. 684 years later, they still didn't have it. And so these stones represent this faithfulness to the process. And then every single day, I got a step I got to take towards the Lord. And if I'm not taking a step towards the Lord, then I'm finding myself, I'm just stuck in the wilderness, going from one side to another, to another, to another, to another, as I'm just a couple miles away from the promised land that God's given to me. But I'm just working on the same problems I've always had. So instead, let's love the process. Embrace, are you willing to carry the burden God has given for you? Maybe you don't like the burden that God's given to you. Maybe you've asked for him to remove it. Are you willing to carry the faithfulness God's asking you to carry, even if he's not asking your neighbor to carry it? The process with the Lord, maybe that's where we talk about one more prayer. Right, one more prayer. I'm just going to start building my faith life, and I'm going to start praying, and I'm going to do 1 minute a day. Maybe I've prayed 1 minute every 2 years or something. Or maybe I'll pray when I really want that job opportunity, or I pray when I really screwed up and I hope I don't get caught, or I pray when, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to start building a habit. And maybe that's the next thing you got. Maybe it's not the one more prayer. Maybe it's one more habit that you're going, I'm going to start building this habit. I'm going to start reading my word every single morning. I'm going to set an alarm right now. Maybe it's I'm going to read a verse in the morning, and I'm going to actually spend more intentional time over the lunch hour, or right when I get home from work, or whatever it may be. What's the habit? If you don't feel like your spiritual walk is sustainable for the weight and the burden of life right now, then maybe there's a habit you got to pick up, because sometimes it's not about pulling back. Sometimes it's about pressing in to the things that actually matter the most. What is one more habit? Maybe it's one more conviction. One more conviction. And I find a lot of times the Lord, maybe the stone I'm putting up is one more conviction. And sometimes God's saying, like, oh man, why are you saying that to me, God? And he says, because I've told it to you a long, long time ago, and I'm still waiting for you to follow and obey it. I got more for you, but I need you to go to where I called you to in the very first place. And then I will lead you more. Maybe you need to respond to an old conviction. What's the process that God's leading you through? Maybe it's, I just need to trust God again. I just need to go, all right, I don't know if I fully get it. I don't know if I fully have it. I don't know if I can fully dive in with everything, but I'm going to. I'm going to trust even though I don't feel it. I'm going to trust him. I'm going to trust the process that he has. I'm going to dive into this. I'm going to open up my heart to him and to the church and to the people around me. And I'm going to try again. I'm going to do one more church. I'm going to try one more group. I'm going to try one more friend. I'm going to try one more worship service. I'm going to try whatever it may be. Maybe on Sunday morning, maybe it's like, I just don't want to today, but I'm going to go one more. I'm just going to go, because usually what I find is when you don't want to go, oh, that's the enemy going, oh, yeah, you don't want to go. Don't go today. Don't go today. There's a special treasure for you today, and I don't want you to have that. Usually I find when I don't want to go, God's got something extra special for me waiting at the altar. Maybe you got one more conviction. Maybe you got one more habit. Maybe it's, I got to give one more dollar. Maybe it's, I got to start giving faithfully. Maybe it's, I got to start jumping in and serving on a team. What is the trust God, the conviction? Maybe it's not about forgiving others. Maybe it's, I got to forgive myself one more time. Maybe I got to finally go, okay, I've messed up a million times. I'm a ridiculous mess. But if you're there, go back and check out the message from a couple weeks ago, negative affirmations, because that's the most beautiful place to be with the Lord. Is not going, I'm so good, I'm so pure, I'm so amazing. It is, God, I'm such a mess, and so therefore I need you. Would you fix this mess? Because I can't. I'm a broken person trying to fix a broken thing, and I'm going to just break it more. Would you do it? Maybe you need to forgive yourself one more time. Or maybe for you, the stone you got to build today is just one more day. I'm not in a thrive season. I'm just in a survive season. Maybe there's some of you today who are going, I just got to make it through today. I just gotta walk my way through today, because tomorrow's a bigger burden than I know how to bear. Because I got too much mess inside of my heart, and I'm too afraid. I'm too depressed. I don't want to get out of bed. I'm too anxious. And I just need to make it one more day. And then tomorrow I'm going to say just one more day. And the next day I'm going to say just one more day. And I'm going to get back up no matter how many times I've fallen, no matter how many times I continue to just, I'm failing. One more day. I don't know what stone you've got to build your altar with. But every single one of us is building an altar. The question is, what kind of altar are we building? What kind of altar are we building? Because the third thing that we see about what these stones represent the people, right? The 12 tribes. And then it represents the process. They're picked up from the middle of the river, but it also represents the provision. The whole reason, he says, the memorial is to remember not what you did. Not how you survived. Oh my goodness, look at you. You did the 40 years. Congratulations. It's about what God did. Did you stop the river? Did you split the Red Sea? This is about what God has done, is doing, and will continue to do. Amen? God's always moving, and God's always providing. And sometimes we forget that we've built up an altar, and we look at all the habits, we look at the people we've helped, we've looked at the good things God has done, and we go, dang, I'm pretty good. But the problem is that then we're building an altar. We're building the first altar. At the beginning, as before they even started their real wilderness season, they thought they were getting ready for the promised land in a week or two. And in this season, they decide to build an altar to a false god that they had always worshipped, that all the Egyptians had worshipped. When they were overcome by a powerful nation, Egypt, that's the god that they worshipped. And so clearly, maybe that Baal god is the God who's helped us here, because now we are Baal's favorite, so we're going to worship this other thing. And God's revealing, no. You're trying to attribute to someone else. You're building your own idol. You're just operating off of what you're familiar with, and I'm not asking you for the familiar. I'm asking you for the unfamiliar. Because the reality is that Baal idol, that Baal altar was beautiful. It was made out of gold. It was fashioned and shaped into a bowl. And a lot of times the altars that we build for ourselves, the world goes, wow. Your bank account is what? Your job title is what? That's not part of the There you go. Yeah, the Baal idol. That's what happens to the Baal idol. I knew that was going to happen. And the reality is when people are going to go, wow, you look amazing. Look at what you've done. You've really built yourself up to be quite the person. But an altar built to the Lord may not be quite as glamorous. It's filled with walking out and gathering your manna every day. It's filled with, man, yes, we crossed the Jordan River on dry ground. But the Lord keeps impacting me with the job of Moses, the job of Joshua, the job of the Israelites, and the job of God, right? What was God's job? To stop the biggest river in that area. Their job was to walk. And I go, whoa, look at me, I just walked across the Jordan River. It's like, I built you to take those steps. That's fine. It's about God. It's about His provision. It's about what He's led us into. And if I build my altar to look fancy, to look beautiful, how many followers I have, how much I think I'm winning, it's not about that. What is the altar you are building right now? And if we can stand up here, what I want to do is I want to challenge us to what is the stone that you can place on your altar right now? What's the stone you're carrying up on your shoulder, and you're carrying from the middle of the miracle, the process, and maybe it's someone that you go, I'm just going to be faithful to this person that's really difficult to be faithful with. Maybe it's a habit, a process, a rhythm that God's calling you to. He's asking you to trust Him, and you got to go, okay, I'm just going to pick up my stone, and I'm going to walk with it. What's the stone that you're building right now? Do you have a conviction on your heart right now that God's calling you to? Or maybe, here's an interesting note. Do you know the place where they crossed over the Jordan? At this exact same place, years later, is the place where John the Baptist was standing in the water. The Jordan River, and he baptizes Jesus. See, the old places where the breakthrough has come is often sometimes the same place. We got to go back to the same place that we've met God before. And at the same time that they were stepping into the promised land, now Jesus was stepping into His ministry. At the same time that they're stepping out of their wilderness, Jesus was stepping into a new covenant. And the place of transformation is always found in the same place I found God before, when I'm on my knees, when I'm with Him, when I'm at the altar, when I've got a stone on my back that's too big for me, and I've got to give it to Him, and I've got to go, God, I don't know why you're asking me to do this, but I will be faithful. I will give one more stone. I will continue because I know that this is a place of transformation. I know that you've been faithful before, you'll be faithful again. And as I will continue to give one more stone, I will give one more step. I will take one more day. I will love one more person. I will forgive them one more time. I'll forgive myself one more time. Every day I will continue because I know this is the place where transformation happens. And if this is this place where Jesus is finding His baptism, at the same time they're stepping into the promised land, Jesus is stepping into the promised Savior. And just like God made new before, He's still making new. You're not too late. You're not too messed up. It hasn't been too long. Hasn't been too much. And I believe that there's some in this room who God is saying, come on, it's your time. Come to me. Follow me. Say yes to me. And what I want to do is I want to invite you. I want to invite you to respond. Every single one of us will get a chance to respond. What is the stone you're carrying? And maybe God's saying specifically, I want you. I want you to start building this altar for the very first time, or the first time in a long time. And you got to get this renewal. If we can close our eyes, what I want to do is I just want for every single one of us to genuinely process right now, what is the response God's asking for me? Because if I'm not carrying something right now, if I'm not building an altar to the Lord right now, then I am building an altar to myself. I am building an idol. What is the Lord asking me to do? Just a faithful one more step. And genuinely figure out, what is that? What is that? What's the thing that God's resonated in your heart? And if it is, I got to give to the Lord. I got to draw near to the Lord for the first time in a long time, or maybe the first time ever. If that's you, everybody's eyes are closed, would you just look at me? Just you and me. And this is a God moment. And I want to make sure that we see eye contact, because God's saying, come to me, hon. God's saying, come to me. And there's transformation in the same place. In the same place that you found Him before. You're not alone. You're not too broken. If we can open our eyes, what I want to do is I want to challenge us. I want to say, come on, come on. Can we respond? And we're going to just respond with a little song here. And if you go, I know what God's calling me to, come on up. And if you specifically go, I know God's calling me to a recommitment of my life to Him, or to commitment for the first time, would you come up and just grab one of these salvation response cards we got right here? We got them here, and we got them right over by there, by the other box of tissues over there. And while you're coming up, grab one of those. But if you've got a challenge you've got to respond to, go ahead and come on up. And this is your practical, I'm building an altar. Go ahead. Thank you. Come on. Come on. And we're going to sing, and we're going to worship, and we're going to pray, and we're going to go, God, I give this to you. As we all come up. Come on. And we respond saying, yes, Lord, I will pick up this stone. Yes, Lord, I will carry it. Yes, Lord, I will choose one more day of faithfulness. I will say, I will obey one more time. I will say, I will try again. I will invite again. It hasn't worked before, but I'm going to try it again. I'm going to love again. I'm going to trust again. And I just want for us, respond. Give this to the Lord right here, right now.